Your pet is a member of your family, and your pet deserves to be a part of your estate plan. Even though the law, in a really cynical way, it treats your pets as quote-unquote property, but they're not property. They're part of your family, and you need to make sure you are taking care of them in your estate plan. The reason why? Because if something happens to you and we don't have a plan in place for them, they can end up, first of all, end up in a shelter. Second, the wrong person might step in and take over. And third, their care could drop off a cliff. So, we want to make sure we're protecting these members of our family. They're very vulnerable. They can't speak for themselves. They can't advocate for themselves if something happens to you. So what we want to do is make sure we have a pet trust in place so we can have a plan for their care after we're gone. So a lot of times when I meet with my clients, we look at the various parts of the legacy that we're planning for, and the one thing that stands out on the questionnaire that they fill out is, on the pets, what are we doing with the pets? Do we have a caregiver in mind? Are we going to set aside some money? We're not sure what that next step is going to be. So what we're talking about in the estate planning world is what we call a pet trust. So a pet trust is a legal document or a part of your legal documents that will name a caregiver, will provide money for your pet, and will detail how your pet should be treated. If we put the trust for the pets in place right now, unlike a will, what happens is the trust can kick in immediately so that if you became sick, your trustee could actually manage your pets and have them go to somebody to be taken care of if you're unable. So let's say you're going to be in the hospital for a 3 to 6 month stay, especially if you've been intubated at some point and you're not able to respond. We want to make sure we have some kind of a plan in place for these pets so that somebody is taking care of your pets and they'll be there when you come out of the hospital and come home. So if we're looking at a pet trust, you're probably asking yourself, how are we going to set one up? And it's actually a pretty straightforward situation. First thing we need to do is we need to name a caregiver. And we want to make sure it's somebody who's willing and responsible and ideally an animal lover. So you don't want to name somebody in your pet trust who doesn't really like animals or maybe has no experience taking care of them. We want to make sure it's somebody who knows what it's going to take care of your dog or your cat or your parrot or whatever kind of pet we're going to be giving to them. The next thing after the caregiver is we need to also select a trustee. So it can be the same person as the caregiver, but it's a different role. So the trustee's job is to actually manage money for the pet. So we heard in the past about things like Leona Helmsley leaving millions of dollars to her dog Trouble. It doesn't have to be that much money, but we usually want to leave some money aside for the trustee to manage on behalf of the pets. So for example, vet bills, food, other care that comes due, we need to make sure we have money there for your pet to be taken care of. Now we need to actually fund the trust, meaning we have to actually set aside that money. The food, the vet bills, grooming, boarding, toys, whatever it may be, we want to make sure we're actually putting money into the trust and not just naming the people who are going to be involved. And then the final step is we need to give clear instructions. So your preferred veterinarian, the diet and exercise you want for your pet, their favorite toys. Do you have any end-of-life wishes that you want for your pet? All of these are things that we can create and craft in a pet trust, whether in your will or whether in a separate trust. We want to make sure we have this all laid out because you have the ability to do so. There's no reason not to do it if you have a pet. We want to make sure we have your wishes spelled out, and without putting all the information in, what's going to happen to your beloved pet after you're gone. The more detail you have, the more peace of mind you're going to have that they're being taken care of properly and in the way that you would want them to be taken care of. Now, a few things we want to make sure we do not forget. First of all, don't forget to name backup caregivers just in case something happens to the person who you are going to designate as the caregiver. Maybe they've moved somewhere else, or maybe they're in an apartment building that doesn't allow for pets. Whatever that situation may be, make sure we have backup caregivers. We also want to make sure we're specifying what happens to any leftover funds. So if after caring for your dog for 10 years, there's still some money left over when your dog passes away, do we want that money to go to a charity, to your estate, to go to somewhere else? So you do need to think down the road and what happens at the end of the trust. Should we have somebody who checks in on the caregiver and the trustee? So you can have essentially a check built into place to make sure that the dog or cat's being taken care of. You can have someone who's almost monitoring what's going on with your pet. It's not required, but it's something to consider just in case, so you make sure that your pet is being taken care of. And then finally, you have to decide, do we want this pet trust to be a standalone document or just want it to be part of your general estate plan? As said earlier in the video, the advantage of having a standalone trust with a pet trust built in is that if you become sick, your trustee could actually step in and manage some money and have a caregiver for your pets while you're in the hospital, so that when you come out of the hospital, your pets are happy and healthy and waiting to see you. Many times, though, my clients will opt for what we call a testamentary pet trust, which means it's a pet trust that's in their will and only comes into effect when they pass away. And that's just under the presumption that you're alive, if you're willing, you're able to take care of your pet while you're alive, and that it's only after you're gone that we need to have this plan in place. Bottom line is, our pets give us so much. They give us loyalty, they give us love. In the Ayers household, we have a dog, we have a cat, and while the two of them fight all the time, they're members of our family. We love them. They're chasing each other around. They're having fun. The cat will play with our daughter. The boys will be playing with the dog. These members of our family need to be included as part of your estate plan. It's not a complex process to add a pet trust either to your will or to a standalone trust. And we love these members of our family. We want to make sure that they are protected. If you have more questions or you want to dive deeper into a pet trust and whether it makes sense for your estate plan, you can go to my website, andrewmayers.com. There's a red legal strategy session button on the front page. If you click that, you'll be taken to my homepage, where we can set up a phone call, usually 15 or 20 minutes, to discuss pet trusts or other estate planning issues and see whether or not they fit into your estate planning documents. If you like this video, you can hit the like or thumbs up button below. You can subscribe on YouTube or at ayerslawtv.com. And please remember, these are the members of our families who cannot speak for themselves. They need to be a part of your estate plan, whether it's with a pet trust in your will or a separate trust. Let's make sure we have something in place for them.